of fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll Columbus.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by my good friend / my co-host, Devin. And today we're here to break down the 4th episode of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Episode 4, of course, titled, Is This Not Real Magic? ? Very anonymous there. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at FilmOptix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, how you been since our previous recording? Not 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, we're keeping it rolling here. I'm blessed that we have NFL football back today.
Yes, sir. Yes, we do. You know what? I think that really, there we go. I think this is very fitting, even though it's draft theme, but it's all about the chime, that NFL draft chime.
The NFL has perfect musical cues for everything. Like every channel has their own. Like I'm sure you've seen that TikTok of all the different dances between the different theme songs.
Yeah. Are you in any fantasy football leagues this year?
Yeah, I'm doing 3 this year. It's exciting.
3? Holy moly. What? Okay. So what are the names of your teams? Because I'm only in 1.
See, I like to come up with names based on the players I draft. I'm still workshopping some names, but one of my teams is Najee's in Paris, and I drafted Najee Harris.
Nice. I like that. Mine is the Valerian Steelers. So you got some nice little Game of Thrones action in there. I almost changed it to I was looking for an Avatar: The Last Airbender football team, and I was like, oh, Team Avatar. I'm like, it's a great name, but I found one online and it's called Bend It Like Beifong. For Toph Beifong, the Earthbender, for all those people who don't know Avatar: The Last Airbender, if you know, you know. So it was between Bend It Like Beifong, which I love that name. But I was like, I'm going to go with Valerian Steelers right now. You know, Game of Thrones is back. You know, House of the Dragon is here. It just seemed fitting. You know, we got that Valerian steel from Dark Sister for Daemon's sword, and then there's another sign of the Targaryen household. They have some really, really nice steel swords there. But as we mentioned before, we're going to be covering episode 4 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. So the way this is going to go down, of course, we'll get into our initial reactions. We'll get into a little bit of spoilers here and there. We'll talk about the post-credit scene that hits every single week, and then we're just going to give our final thoughts, and we're going to skedaddle on out of here. So I've said before, we're not going to be giving our rating of She-Hulk until the season finale. But Devin, are you ready to get into our She-Hulk episode review here?
I'm so ready for more Wong.
Wongers! Yes! All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this introduction to She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, episode 4.
Show me your matcher profile.
No.
Jennifer. Come on. Baby steps. There we go.
All right. Quite nice, actually.
Oh my God. We're not using your corporate headshot as your profile photo. What's your first date gonna be? Webinar?
This is exactly what
Come
I want to show you.
on. Okay, there's no judgment. But that was a really bad choice. Oh, okay.
Oh my God. Are you swiping?
Yes, of course. Come on, it's a numbers game, all right? After about 500 swipes, you're gonna get about a third of those as matches, and then that's when the real filtering happens. Oof. Hetero life is grim.
Nikki, you're not helping.
Yes, I am. Come on. This is good. What if you made a profile? Hear me out. As She-Hulk.
I thought you hated the name She-Hulk.
I do, but I don't know. I can't stop saying it. It's really catchy.
No, if I'm gonna date, it's gonna be as Jen.
All right.
Regular old Jen.
All right, and we are back with our She-Hulk Attorney at Law episode 4 review. Again, this is titled, "Is This Not Real Magic?" ? So, man, I guess we'll just start off with our initial reactions. Devin, what did you think of this episode?
Thought this was another just solid, funny entry into the series here. I love the format they've set up here, where it seems like they're going to do a different client every week. There's going to be some kind of wacky situations that ensue. It's exactly what you'd expect from a situational comedy. There's been a lot of complaints about there being too much humor in a sitcom, which is just mind-numbing, and I don't understand the thought process there. Especially considering it was created by a Rick and Morty writer. We all knew that coming into this. And the first episode, She-Hulk herself tells us that it's a fun lawyer show. She tells us directly what the show is, but people are expecting it to be something else. They expect it to be something that they want more. And it's just baffling. I'm just becoming so tired of the discourse that we've been seeing on Twitter and online of, this show's too funny. Why is the show so funny? Or like, why is it trying to be so funny, I should say. It's a sitcom. We all know this. You should know this by now. It's doing its job. Like, you don't watch Seinfeld or The Office to get like dramatic scenes or like character development. You watch them because you're funny. I need to know what the expectations are. I understand that the MCU has an issue of pumping in some more comedic elements into some serious moments throughout the movies and shows. But from the get-go, this was set up as a sitcom, and we all knew that. And nothing has changed. So I don't know. That's what I got, but I liked it.
And that is a Devin rant in the books. Maybe the first ever.
I felt right.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I enjoyed this episode a lot because it seems this show is moving towards like a case per week type of show where it is very serialized, as I've said in other past episodes. Since we are now in the 4th entry, I believe we have 5 more to go. I think it's 9 total, I believe. But no, I really did enjoy this episode. You know, we have Wong, who seems to be in trouble, and it's like, hey, she is a superhuman lawyer, so she would be helping those people who are in that, you know, sphere. So like, who better to be, you know, we have Emil Blonsky. You know, we got that case in the books, but we have yet to see if he's going to appear up again or not. And now it's dealing with Wong and this and this magician imposter in a way.
It's just such a fun side adventure we get here.
Yeah, and I do agree where it's, I don't know, like, I mean, if you don't like the show, you don't like the show, and that's totally fine. If you don't find the humor funny, that's different. But it does seem like there is a lot of online discourse where it almost just seems as if people are critiquing the show based on what they want to see instead of what's in front of them.
I don't understand what the expectations were to begin with, if that's the case.
Right. And unfortunately, it has been with a lot of these female-led Marvel shows or superhero shows in general, especially with Marvel, they seem to be getting a lot of unnecessary flack. And I don't know. It's very weird. It's like all of a sudden we have this fun comedy show, and then it's like, well, people are saying, well, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the MCU. It's not consistent. And I'm like you said, you know, we were talking about it earlier on Twitter, Devin, you know, like Wong is one of the most comedic characters in the entire MCU. Like, why would
Since his very introduction. He was listening to Beyonce in the library, and we knew that Wong was that guy.
Yeah. I just feel like people are just taking this show way too seriously. I adored this episode. It is hilarious. We get a little bit more insight into Jennifer Walters' dating life. You know, she's in her 30s, and there's always been that running joke of, hey, it's hard to meet someone in your 30s. And it's like, I mean, yeah, kind of, sort of. It's, it's people are crazy out there. We see the encounters of a bad date gone, completely sideways, and then what do they call it, match love or love match, something like that.
Matcher.
Matcher. So yeah, it's basically like Tinder. But I gotta say, Devin, the hero of this episode was Madison, Madisynn.
2 N's and a Y where you wouldn't expect it to be. Just such a great line and a great character.
1 Y, but it's not where you think. And it's hilarious. I mean, if you are planning to watch The Sopranos at all, you might want to skip through a few of these.
Yeah, spoiler alert for the 20-year-old Sopranos show, but it was hilarious seeing Wong just watch Sopranos. You hear that theme song and you just know what's up. He's just trying to hang out, and he gets bombarded by Madison.
I absolutely love it. Like I mean,
Wongers.
Like, I don't even need Wong to get his own like show. I just enjoy that this is just this is a fun, cool lawyer show like Jennifer Walters, Tatiana Maslany has said in the past. And then it's almost as if people just can't enjoy things for what they are, because if the episode's good, then we had a lot of people talking about the twerking post-credit scene. And then it's like people were just nitpicking and tearing things apart. And I really don't understand how.
It's like where's the same energy when Deadpool first comes into the MCU? Like, it's gonna be the same thing. He's a comedic character. He's gonna have a comedic movie. There's gonna be other characters from the MCU that go into that movie and are comedic, and that's expected because that's his character.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said before, with this episode 4, I mean, it pushes. We're seeing Jennifer Walters in her element. We're seeing her take on these cases where it's like, hey, she obviously, Wong is a very, I guess you could say, minimalistic type of person when it comes to certain things, and he needs to understand the American justice system, which she then explains to him how things kind of go down. And like, this is technically Marvel's first comedy. Like, there's comedy in a lot of Marvel properties, but there's a lot of comedy in a lot of other like film and TV shows. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're labeled a comedy, but regardless of if you found this episode funny or not, or the series, I mean, that's up to you. That's fine. If it's not your type of humor, it's not your type of humor. But it just seems like there's a super weird double standard sometimes, or at least the people that I've encountered with online, where it's like, you kind of just have to loosen up and take out the restraints and stop taking it seriously, because it's not going to go down those serious routes. Like, She-Hulk has always been like this in the comics as well. Like, my friend Mike Thomas was actually showing me a few comic covers of like the sensational She-Hulk. And so on the front of the comic, of at least the final issue of this sensational She-Hulk, she's saying, okay, kids, we had a deal. Now hand over those X-Men comics. And, she's holding her own comic book, like a miniature version of the cover of the comic book that we're holding, that she's also holding. It's like, it's funny. Like, and there's another one where she's like, okay, this is your second chance. If you don't buy my book this time, I'm gonna come to your house and rip up all your X-Men. Kind of. It's just like that. That's just how it is. Like, that was on like the first issue of the sensational She-Hulk, the one I just mentioned, and then like, okay, kids, we had a deal. Now hand over those X-Men comics. So it's like that's just who She-Hulk is. Like, she is very self-aware. It's
like when She-Hulk twerks, it's blasphemy, but there's so many other examples of just male characters dancing, like obviously Star-Lord's hip thrusting, Zemo's dancing in the club. I mean, Deadpool did a whole like stripper dance and what was it, Deadpool 2? Like, and there's no issues there. Those are all like funny and accepted, but as soon as a woman does it, it's like unacceptable. And our kids can't see this. This is terrible. Like, what is the deal? I don't understand.
I don't either. It is very, I do feel like it is a bit of a double standard sometimes when it comes to these, with these shows, but back on track with the actual episode, I really enjoyed it. I know we went on a tangent there for a bit, but that's okay. It's all relevant. It's all about perspective. So yeah, it's just very, it's weird sometimes, but overall, let's get back on track here. Let's get into our spoilers.
At the end, she finally has a successful date and has a fun night seemingly, and then she goes back to Jennifer Walters' form, and he kind of runs away, which is kind of a sad moment at the end because you see a look in her face of she was very disappointed. Then she cracks a joke at us to kind of make it all better, and then she gets served at the end because Titania is coming back.
Oh yeah, she's well. Before I go any further, I do apologize. We have one. That's your first spoiler warning here on the channel again. That's your second warning here on the show, not the channel. Sorry. So yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely turn it back. But yeah, so she is getting sued because I guess
Titania has trademarked She-Hulk.
It's just the dumbest thing, but it's so funny at the same time where it's like she resolves one issue and then another issue arises at the end of the episode. And that's what makes this feel so serialized, this series itself. I'm really enjoying it.
It just makes you excited for like what client she's gonna have next week, like where it's gonna go from here. Because this setup just makes it so that you can do so many different stories and you can just have so much fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I said, man. These sensational She-Hulk. She's like, hey kids, get rid of these X-Men comics. Like, you're gonna read my stuff. It's like we had a deal. Now hand over those X-Men comics.
Yeah, she's a comedic character, and she has always been in touch with her sexuality, and that's what the character is, like through and through. So it's just a misunderstanding of everything that she represents, I guess.
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate sometimes when you have like these female-led shows, and it's like people can't just enjoy things for what they are anymore. It seems like it almost feels like there are people out there who are nitpicking at the show. Granted, the majority of these people who are probably listening to this are like, oh, like, what are you talking about? Yeah, if you go on like Reddit, Twitter, especially Twitter, where we usually get all of our information, good and or bad, that'll definitely
IMDb is a hotbed for these reviews.
Yeah, that as well. Rotten Tomatoes. And for some reason, it's cool to hate on Marvel now for whatever reason. I mean, like, if you don't like something, that's fine. But I don't know. I don't need to be constantly reminded that you don't like something, because there's a lot of things that I don't like that I'm not like constantly shoving down people's throats. So I don't know. It's Marvel's first comedy. And that kind of just gives you the signal to listen up. We're not going to have like this super sappy or like, spiritual journey with this character. We're just going to have fun. It's going to be about Jen Walters doing her thing. It's going to be about a woman in the workplace, overcoming these issues, helping out these superhero individuals, and her new job. And, hopefully we'll get more of Madison and Wong.
What's that Madison spinoff?
It's honestly a perfect casting between both of them. Like, they really just hit it off as besties, and it's so funny what happens in this episode. It's about 35 minutes long, not super long, so I kind of appreciate that. And like, the show knows when to bow out, and you just move on to the next week. I know we're still waiting on a specific individual to come out. I know I've said that before when it comes to cameos, but that's a conversation for another time. Devin, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we close out here?
Yeah, I'm sure the discourse is going to be amazing when Daredevil arrives. It's just going to be so enjoyable.
It's so I was talking to Mike Thomas about it, and he made some really good points. It's weird. It's like he said that people aren't watching to enjoy shows anymore, and that they're watching the universe, and that's when people get upset. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But it's like, the She-Hulk trailer, this is something also mentioned, saying that like the She-Hulk trailer itself sold us on, shots of Daredevil. And so instead of the hardcore fans, I guess you could say, instead of the hardcore fans focusing on She-Hulk, they're focusing on Daredevil, and they're more concerned about Daredevil appearing. And how the series treats their golden child, essentially, because the series Daredevil has like held such a high bar for a lot of just superhero shows altogether. But I was just talking to Mike about it and just wanted to shed a little bit of light because I think he has some really good insight on this stuff. Definitely follow Mike Thomas, aka the Novice Cinephile, on Twitter for all sensible needs that you may need for anything comic book related. The dude is a genius when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this episode and I can't wait for more. So let's bring back Madison. Yes.
Wongers.
He's just like, it's hilarious. He seems so content, but he's like, God, can you just like,
maybe they can have a bit of chemistry there. The post-credit scene we haven't mentioned yet, but she's back cuddling on the couch with him. And they're sharing a drink possibly.
And she's just consistently spoiling The Sopranos for this poor man.
Yeah, he can't watch now.
Yeah, it is hilarious though. Like when I saw him watching it I was like, oh, he's watching Sopranos. I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna like mention it. They definitely did. So it's perfect casting. Like if anything, this amazing. So yeah, that pretty much concludes our episode review of She-Hulk episode 4. So if you liked what you've heard on today's episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice and make sure to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. So really quick, by the time this is out, our House of the Dragon episode 4 spoiler-free review will be out. And we're also going to be covering The Barbarian movie. Is coming out in theaters this coming up weekend. And we'll be dropping that hopefully on September 12th on a Monday. And definitely make sure to check out our Avatar: The Last Airbender book 3 Fire. I almost said book 3 Earth review that will be dropping in September, later on in September. But you can also check out our book 2 Earth series revisited as well. So with all that said, we hope you guys have a great day. And we'll see you guys next time. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian. And we'll see you guys in court.
Peace.
And call my lawyer.
Wongers.